All right, so welcome to this month's training that is being sponsored by Space Coast Pool School. The training is going to be with representatives from Genemis Laboratories of America, Inc. and Space Coast Pool School. For those of you that don't know who I am, I teach the Certified Pool Operator course through the Pool and Hot Tub Alliance. I offer in-person classes, private classes in person in Florida, and I also teach the 100% virtual CPO course. So if you're needing a CPO course, I teach online virtual CPO classes on a monthly basis. So you can always get into one of those virtual classes whenever you need. Also, if you need to recertify, that's very easy. Just contact me and I'll walk you through the steps. Florida listeners, look at my schedule for in-person classes and you can see if I'm going to be in your area or not. But I want to immediately go over to our main presenters from Genemis Laboratories of America, Inc., Jim Mock, who's VP of Global Sales, and James Dyer, who is CEO. So I'm going to go ahead and end my presentation here, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to let you guys start your presentation. Thank you for being here today and sharing your water testing for the audience, which is going to be Parks and Rec, apartment maintenance. It could be a lot of pool contractors, pool service companies, stuff, people like that.
Well, first, we'd like to thank you very much for inviting us. My name is James Dyer. I am the CEO of Genemis Laboratories of America, Incorporated. This company was founded only 2 years ago. And since that time, we have reached many people with our products. Our products are designed for the environment today, from water runoff to excessive storms that we have, climate change. We see more bacteria getting into a water system than ever before. And during COVID, with these big office buildings sitting, many of these buildings will have some Legionnaires within the piping system, and they should be tested before you go back into your work. We also have discovered over the many years that when I was coming up, we just fought algae in the swimming pools. Now we're fighting algae down in West Palm Beach, for example. The algae problem there has almost crippled the town with their water supply. So we are working on a test for algae at this time. It's not developed yet. It's going to take some time, but we'll get it there. We also are working on a test for COVID. This particular test will be able to swipe the surface anywhere, and you will see if you have COVID on top of your counters. But our main product is for testing of Legionnaires, testing of bacteria, testing for E. coli, and a free chlorine test. We have two products that we mainly try to promote. One is Exact Blue, which is a nanotechnology product that Jim will soon demonstrate. And the other is Aqua Pro 500, which is mainly designed for a homeowner who wants to test his swimming pool or test a spa, or even their water system, for example. Or if you're on a well, you may want to test your well like I do. I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm on a well. I have septic. I have a lot of water runoff lately. And I continue to check my water system each month.
Health department, when I worked there, did a free coliform test as well, just in general, which is an indicator organism, and it can indicate that there's bacteria and contamination in your well. We would test wells constantly. People would bring in their water tests and stuff. So, and what Legionella, for our listeners, if you're doing commercial spas, that's where the big worry is with Legionella, especially during COVID when spas were shut down for a period of time and there's no chlorinated water running through the lines. I know our health department in Florida had come up with startup procedures for restarting a spa because of the worry of Legionella being spread after they've been shut down because of the biofilm it grows in the pipes. So being able to test for it would be a unique thing to be able to do for public health, but also for our listeners.
And what I did mention, our test does it in minutes. you can actually be servicing a swimming pool, or you can be a homeowner sitting out by your pool and you can test it within 5 minutes, or a manual test that takes 15 minutes. And when I say 5 minutes, that's perfect timing, doing everything 1, 2, 3, no mistakes. Sometimes it will take up to 10 minutes.
Wow. But to be able to test for something would be awesome, especially for public health.
Right. In Atlanta, when I started this, it was a young lady, and unfortunately, she passed away from Legionella after checking out. She was there a very brief period. And to this day, what was interesting is the insurance carrier for this hotel declined to make payment. That said, you're not covered. So this is another way that you can go ahead and test your properties to be sure that you're covered somehow, some way.
Yeah, Legionella has been found in like hotels, or even I've heard vacation villas. It could be HVAC systems or cooling towers, and
right,
that are not maintained properly for keeping Legionella out.
That's correct. And, veterans hospitals, we're hearing more and more, and Jim brought to my attention recently, we're even hearing about ice machines because of the filters that remove the chlorine. It's a perfect breeding ground for a Legionella.
We were constantly, when we did food inspections, we're checking how often they were changing the filter out and stuff like that, because we knew that.
Right.
And we had a hospital that was also, their hot water system was found to be contaminated with Legionella. And so showers, and you look at dead ends of plumbing. So people taking showers at the end of that dead end plumbing, there's no free chlorine by the time it gets to that dead end from the county water system. So they ended up putting in a chlorine system to be able to disinfect, because they couldn't do temperature because they're governed by an agency here for health facilities, and they don't allow them above 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So Legionella goes, I love that temperature. So they have to find a way to still meet their regulatory guidelines and still be able to get rid of Legionella. But if they had an easy test to be able to test it, they had to do the whole state testing where they swabbed inside and then it got sent to the state lab. And, it's a length of time until you get your results.
Right. When I was in Greece, I took the product there and met with a few people. One of the people we met with was a brand name soda company. Now, soda companies use reverse osmosis to get most everything out of the water. However, based on the infrastructure that I saw of Athens, it was my opinion that our product was a perfect fit. However, they debated that with me and said they'd never had a problem. Well, there's always the first time you have that problem. What will that cost you? And then we met with a bottled water company out on one of the islands, and they also discussed the problems they had, and they admitted that they had a problem with Legionella. So we introduced them to our product. They took some samples, and since that time they've been shut down.
So let's give I know we're talking about the product and stuff. How can it be used specifically in the aquatic industry? Do you have current customers that are using it in the aquatic industry?
I'm going to turn it over to Jim and let Jim explain.
Okay, thank you, Dan, and thank you, Lauren, for having us on here and the opportunity to present. And we always like to have the opportunity to get the word out about our testing. And this is this test is like a hand in a glove when it comes to the overnight accommodation industry, with hot tubs and, of course, spray pads, fountains, and cooling towers, because those are the areas where the water can be aerated. And of course, Legionella bacteria come into our bodies through our nostrils mainly and get into our lungs. And of course, then some people call it Legionella pneumonia. Some people call it Legionella pneumophila. Some people call it Legionnaire's disease. The whole point is it's Legionella that gets into our bodies, okay? And as you've talked here in the beginning moments, the beauty of this test is not just one facet, but you've covered the fact that it is very quick. Number two, it can be done in the field. Number three, it's affordable. And number four, it is very easy to do, which is, if you have no objections, we'll just go now and I'll start showing you the demonstration of the kit. So in order for me to do that, I'm going to switch cameras here and I'm going to show you that this is how I have things set up on my desk here. So first of all, over here, this is what we call the exact blue, and you'll see this in our test because this is the actual device that is doing the analysis of the water sample as we get going. You'll see here my Android phone, and this test will work on an Android phone or it will work on an iPhone. Next to it is a vial, and this vial is a solution that we put into our filter during the test. You'll see that. This particular vial here, and you can see there's a slight tinge of pink. I'll hold up a piece of white paper behind. You can see a very slight tinge. It reminds you of when you put DPD indicator into a water sample out of a pool. What that pink color is are gold nanoparticles that are in the water. And the way this works is that they use functionalized gold nanoparticles in the reagent so that they will attach to certain areas of the cell walls of bacteria if they're present. If that happens, it changes the resonance from the light meter, which is this testing device. There's going to be light go through it. It changes the resonance, and then that helps you determine the bacteria. Next here on the table in front of me is the filter, and this filter will be key in helping us grab the sample. And then we have a syringe. This isn't anything special other than a 20 milliliter syringe here that we have. And next here, I went down the street in our neighborhood and I grabbed some pond water, and hopefully it's going to turn out zero bacteria, but we don't know. It's a lot better than grabbing water off of the tap in my bathroom or something like that here at the house. So I'm going to put this down so that hopefully we can see, and we'll start this test. So first of all, as I said, we have the filter, and I'll bring this up into the camera. This filter attaches to the end of the syringe. It just screws right on there, okay? Now we'll go over here to the water sample that I have. And I don't know if the graduations will come out, but I'll do this slowly. And we'll pull 20 milliliter of the pond water up into this syringe.
What's the function of the filter?
The filter is what's going to trap the bacteria if present, okay? The filter filters down. I asked this question the other day. The filter will trap down to 0.4 of 1 micron. So if there's anything in this water, it will be pulled out in this filter, okay?
So that's way better than our diatomaceous earth filters, listeners, which only goes down to 4 microns. So this is way small. This is filtering out way smaller than that.
Exactly.
in
Exactly.
order to get the sample and get that bacteria into that filter.
Right. So we've drawn water up into the filter now. And so I can unscrew this filter, and I'm off camera here. But trust me, I've unscrewed it. There we go. It's unscrewed. And this syringe, I'm going to just empty. Now, we all know that you wouldn't take water that you just used in the test and put it back into your, source. But we're doing one test here today. I don't have a pan here on my desk, so we're just gonna push it right back down in. So now our syringe is empty, okay? All right, now it's time to start our, what is really impressive in my opinion. We're going to turn on my cell phone, and we're going to go to Exact Blue. And I'm going to turn this down so that hopefully the words will come out. On the bottom here where my finger is pointing, it says start test.
Yep.
So we're going to push that, and we're going to do the bacteria test. So it says, make sure you have all of these things available for your test. Now, I apologize that for some reason or other, that's not exceptionally clear, but the focus of the camera is going, see if I go one way, it gets to nothing. I go another way, but it's telling us do the 20
You can see it
milliliter
now.
water sample. Okay, have the syringe, the bacteria vial, the sterile vial, and a new syringe tip. We have all that. Now watch what happens here. I go here and it says, get the sealed bacteria vial. That's this one right here, okay? We're going to put this into our, right here, into our EBI unit, all right? We're going to say ready and watch here. It says, are you ready to place the unopened vial in the device? Yes, we'll say okay. Look what it gave me a message up here. I'm pointing this out to you, and I'm doing this intentionally because the cell phone walks you through exactly step by step. And it's saying you don't have a connection on Bluetooth between your cell phone and the EBI. So we're going to press this, and it comes on, and look what happened over here. It connected via Bluetooth. There's my little blue dot, and it connected with the Bluetooth up in the top of my phone. All right. So we're going to say ready. We push the button. Okay. Now we have another light has just come on. I'll try to do this to avoid glare. You see the light right there. Okay. And up on top here, it says that it's calibrating the bacteria vial. So it's
So is
working.
this basically a calibration of the unit before you do your test?
That's it. Yes.
Just like a photometer, you do like the Lamont, you do a calibration before each test
Yes.
to make sure it's working right.
Because the resonance of the individual plastic cuvettes could be a problem. Many factors, as you know, from being in the industry so long, that can affect. You see what it's doing here? It's counting off. Are you able to see the percentages that it's counting off there, Lauren?
It looks like 50, yes, 60%. So it's doing a calibration. You're doing that calibration before you're actually going to put your test in.
Exactly.
Which this is like a photometer, isn't it? Is this a photometer system?
Yes. Yes.
So any photometer would have to be calibrated. So this is for listeners. This isn't something weird or different. This is, if you're using a photometer to test your pool water, you do this in the very beginning.
Okay. Now what's happened, it says attach the filter and onto the tip of the syringe. And so we're going to say, okay, draw the water sample. We already did that. Now unscrew and empty. We've done that. Now reattach our filter that we had and pull 1 milliliter of the sterile solution through the vial. So here's our sterile solution. I'm going to put it down here on my desk, and I'm going to pull in 1 milliliter of the sterile solution. So hang on here and you'll be able to see this. I'll put this down in and pull up 1 milliliter. Okay. We got that. Now watch what it says. Remove the vial cap and mix. So we're going to go over here to our vial. We're going to put it down in and do the 1 mil. Then put our plug back in. And then it says cap, vial, and shake for 2 seconds. Then we put it down in again. And it says reinsert the vial and start testing. So reinserted. Now what's going on up in the top corner of the screen is another countdown. You can see it, it's probably saying 7 or 8% up there. And it will count all the way up to 100%. And when it's done, it'll tell us that it has a reading for us. Now I'm going to set my camera back down here a second, and I'm going to cap some things so I don't spill anything all over my test area here, and do a little mop up. And let's talk about what some of the advantages are here for the people who are out there day in and day out testing for proper chlorine and making sure the filters in residential pools are working right, all those different. Let's talk to that, because we're now at 18%. It won't take very long for the results to come back here. If I had a pool service, and given the current sensitivity to any bacteria, I would offer an additional service to every one of my customers, the ability to make sure that we are rid of the bacteria that could be present in the pool. Keep in mind, this is a total bacteria count. It is not just for Legionella, although it does pull out the Legionella pneumophila variant LP01, and there's also there's 6 different kinds that it goes after, and so it's going after Legionella, Salmonella, Staphylococcus aureus, Bacillus, Pseudomonas. I mean, I could list the whole 12 of them. But that's what's being tested. And someone says, well, what if it's high in Legionella, but there's no E. coli? What would I do? It doesn't matter, right? If you have more than 500 CFUs, which is the standard by the World Health Organization, does it matter? You're going to superchlorinate anyways, okay? So you want to make sure that you're getting this opportunity to be in front of your customers, and you can test their pool, you can test their spa, you can test some other areas. For example, we were called or had the opportunity to get to a homeowners association in Texas. This particular place had 3 different outbreaks of Legionnaire's disease. Each time people got very ill, and there were lawsuits and so forth. Every time the pool company would go in and they would check all the critical areas, and they would say, well, there's nothing in the pool, there's nothing in the spa, but the person who had Legionnaire's disease didn't want to hear that. They knew they were at that homeowners association, they used the pool, and they knew they got sick. So we went down, and because the test is very quick, because it's affordable, we were able to test 30 different areas around the pool. And if you say, well, let's look for areas that are high in CFUs. One place that no one ever checked was the central outdoor hose bib. So it was the hose bib by the side of the pool that they were using to spray down the deck. That turned up 12,996 CFUs. There's other places, okay? The shower that
I was going to bring that up. I was going to ask, the hose bib is always traditionally near the poolside shower too.
Yes, and the poolside shower had not been used, right? It was meant for both, well, it was a handicap facilitated shower. And so everybody could use the same shower, but as a former health inspector, you know, getting people to use the shower before they get into water is extremely difficult. Well, because of that, like you just commented earlier in the program about the end of the line for the water and there was no chlorine left. Well, there was no chlorine. It was dark. It was, warm water. And so that was a terrific breeding ground. So the showers, well, some were at 5,906. Another shower, 8,259. Another in 5,573 CFUs. Keep in mind, that's more than 10 times the allowable limit by the World Health Organization. So it's just amazing what you're able to do to find out how you are for compliance and promoting the safety of your guests in the overnight accommodation market. Or if you're a pool service company and you're going out and checking each individual homeowner, we read all the time about the family in the neighborhood that has the swimming pool. They've become everybody's best friend. Well, that's cool and that's great. People get together and socialize. But then don't you want to know that the pool and the hot tub that everybody's swimming in is free of bacteria and for sure within the limits of what is healthy. So that's something that we feel very proud of, to be able to go in and help people to be able to figure these things out and promote safety. I'm going to take the camera and go up into the corner here and you'll see where our test is. And Lauren, I'm not sure you can read it there. It's probably a little fuzzy. We're at 97%.
We're almost there.
We're almost there. And as soon as it hits 100%, we're going to see the screen change on my Android phone.
There we go. Analyzing.
Yes. So the test result is being generated, and it says here that there was a signal interference for the test that I just ran. And so, and I know electronics, and you have all these cords running around and magnetic interference. You wouldn't have a camera like this sitting poolside with you when you're doing it, okay? So it will tell you what's going on, okay? So I've run other tests and it will tell you your level of bacteria. Remember that if the sample is pink, like we started out, I have another vial over here. If it's slightly pink, that means there are no bacteria in there. If it turns purple, there are 500 to 1,000. And if it goes totally clear, then it means you're greater than 2,000 CFUs, okay? And you say, well, what happens? Why does it go clear? You would think if the nanoparticles were in there, that then they would show some color. But here's the answer. The bacteria themselves, through their cell walls, absorb they absorb the nanoparticles, which then takes away the color. So if it goes clear and you lose all the pink, then you know that you have a sample that is very high in the levels of bacteria, okay? Now, what we can do with the test then at the end of everything is that we can go and fill out, there's a spot in our Android phone that allows us to put in the name and address and the source. So I could be at the Jim Mock household, put in my address. I can put in the water source was from my spa, and then you click send, and it goes over and it puts it on a website that you can then run reports off of. So that if you came around every month to check your client's pool, you could have readings every month of what was being tested in there. Obviously, if you saw something start creeping up on you, then you'd know to start taking remedial action. And if you saw something that was always giving us that slight pink color, then you know that you're running a pretty tight ship. So that's what that's the test. And it's very easy. The cell phone runs through for you and shows you step by step what to do. And you keep electrical cords and everything away from where Bluetooth's trying to connect with the cell phone, and we wouldn't have had that error. And I apologize for that, but that's our world today and some of the things that happens. Any questions?
No, that's pretty cool. Just to see it. I know me and Mr. Dyer have been talking about it for a little bit on and off. It was very interesting to actually see the test done and everything. It was very cool working with technology that we have. It is a very simple test. And I know some people are out there are like, I already have to do the chemical testing of their pool, but this gives you other information and other data related to how you maintain your disinfection and would tell you if you're doing a good job with that.
Exactly. Exactly. And Dan alluded to it earlier in the broadcast here. There is one way to do the test, and that is with the EBI unit. And there is another way of doing the test, which basically is the vial and the filter and the reagent and the sterile solution. And you can then put it in the test tube and you shake it and then you allow it to sit and wait 15 minutes. Now, when that's done, then you have to put those readings on a service report. If you have a database back at your service headquarters, you have to put it in that database there. The beauty of the EBI is the fact that you don't have a lot of the same inherent costs, the same duplication material, and you get so much more with putting the test over on that website. And you can actually see if you did every one of the customers that you called on, you could see a map very similar to what we're used to with on our cell phones. And you can see the paper clips. And the paper clips, if the paper clips are red, the paperclip says you haven't been there in the allotted time. If the paperclip is green, you've been there and you got a clear test. And so you can look at your whole service range and keep an eye on what's going on with your pools.
That's pretty neat. It's like more information on their pool route that they
Right.
could do. And I mean, if they only wanted to do the test once a month for the pools, that would be better than what we're getting with no data.
Exactly.
So,
And I do a lot of work with the overnight accommodation industry, so the commercial style account. And they say, well, our procedures are that we test and have someone come in and do a very thorough test once a year on site. And I say, first of all, that's very responsible. That you should, okay? What happens 3 months down the road, right? How does Legionella get into your pool? Well, it can come in a lot of ways. It can come in on raw water. So you backwash a filter, that water goes to waste. Then you have to replenish with source water. And there are so many documented cases across the United States where Legionella are coming in through the raw water. So you could have Legionella introduced that way. You could have Legionella introduced, as Dan mentioned earlier, by water runoff. You could have Legionella introduced through some animals. The ones that may tend to swim in your pools can put a little Legionella in there. It's possible. And so it can come from a whole lot of places. And of course, where does E. coli come from? And where does Pseudomonas come from? And a lot of those other things. You can be good today, but what about tomorrow? And so that's what makes a test like this so very, very important. And like I say, it's affordable, it's quick, and it does not require super heavy training, and it does not require sterile laboratory facilities that you have to wait around for the culture. So,
Right. Which Legionella, that's what it is. It's a culture test. If they're sampling a water system, they're going up there with swabs. It's got to go in the sterile tube. Then they send it off to the state lab. And I think it was like a week or something until we had results. I mean, even when we were waiting for norovirus, when we had an active outbreak, sometimes we wouldn't get the results of the test if they had noro or not until almost after the outbreak was over. So we still react like it looks, smells, and tastes like norovirus. We got to kind of know. We would say, well, we're gonna, if you treat for that, you're gonna treat for everything else. So you know, sometimes, and people listening, you gotta understand, even with the state labs and stuff, some of those tests do take that long. So if you say there is and this could be really useful, even if there's like a lawsuit going on with a commercial spa and the people think they got sick from that commercial spa and they sue the property owner and the pool contractor. I mean, the pool contractor could inexpensively, if they were doing these tests, at least just on spas, because that's really where the high risk for Legionella especially is, not really swimming pools, because you get that, like you said earlier, the aerated water when you turn the jets on. That in the hot, it really likes the hot water there. So like we had a lawsuit in the county I worked in, and if they had been doing or had the availability, I think it was before your test was ever available, but if that pool contractor had been doing that test along with all their water chemistry and stuff, they might have been able to have proven, because your test would have said if there was Legionella or not.
Exactly.
Then they could, if they were doing it like weekly and they tested it that week on the spa that the people used it, it would have been good data to have supported them in their lawsuit. But in the end, that wasn't available back then, because it's like 5-6 years ago. But also it didn't look good when you didn't have a chemical log, you didn't have your ORP system working correctly, your pH is high and your chlorine is 0. So yes, that was 2 weeks later after the outbreak, but a good lawyer is going to use that as evidence. And then they had no chemical log to even show what their chemical levels were. So I'm saying, yeah. So, I mean, you take your chemical log and you have your free chlorine and pH like state of Florida requires. But if you do this extra test, this would, and it's not required, it would just be that do it on any commercial spas on your route. And do it like maybe on a weekly basis and record it on your log, or you have the website information, you could pull that out and at least show you're doing something extra to test for something. It's just a protective measure because of liability. And there are lawsuits out there when people get sick. They want to recover their medical expenses because their family member was on a ventilator.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, so this is actually testing for the presence. Does it give a number on like Legionella? Does it give you like the number in the sample?
It just tells you greater than 500 or, you know, up to 2,000. Yeah.
All right. But you said 500 is the limit per World Health Organization anyway.
Yes.
That's their standard.
Yep. Which World Health Organization is like the CDC, everybody that's listening. I know you guys know this, but it's like the CDC, but they're like the CDC internationally.
Yes.
CDC is really United States, but.
What you're saying, this would be very good for health departments too. If they needed rapid testing.
Yes. Yes. I just know when we've discussed before, Mr. Dyer, that health departments are still going to go with until you get that NSF approval, blah, 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 which I know you're working on, then it's going to be very easy to get the scientists in the health department to say, it doesn't mean that they don't think that it would work. It's because they're stuck to their rules and regulations, that the rules and regulations say in certain states that to use a test has to meet this criteria. And sometimes it's just NSF can be very expensive up front to get that insignia on there. And it takes a while for them to even get that whole process done.
Especially with COVID.
Right. But it's not to say that it can't be used unofficially by a pool service company. I cannot see that the health department, there's nothing in code saying that they can't use a test, even if it's not NSF approved, to be able to look for the presence of Legionella or not. And there's nothing in code saying that if there was a lawsuit for that spa, that they couldn't have their lawyer, the contractor being sued, the pool contractor being sued, couldn't use that data that's collected by the Exact Blue from the website and print that report out and use that as extra data as well. It can't officially be used by the health department, but it can unofficially be used as extra data in a lawsuit.
Yes.
And it's not discrediting the information. They're going to be doing it as an extra layer of protection for themselves as a pool contractor, which you got to think about out there, because God, I worked in a tiny county and that was a pretty big lawsuit with only 2 people that got sick with Legionella from the spa, and, they didn't really, I don't think they did any testing. They won the lawsuit. The people that sued the property owner and the pool contractor, they won that lawsuit, but there was no testing done to see if really was the spa the source, or could it have been the poolside shower that maybe just those 2 people used, because we know how much people use the poolside showers. Not really. They're there. There's a sign up at public pools saying shower before entering, but they don't use it, and there's nobody there. Like Florida doesn't require to have lifeguards or attendants, so there's nobody there. And property managers that are trying to sell, like if it's a manufactured home community, like down here in Florida especially, Legionella is a big deal because it's our elderly population that usually becomes symptomatic. I mean, I could go pee in a cup and I could have a positive urine antigen test for Legionella, but I have no symptoms. It's ubiquitous in the environment. It's everywhere. We all can get in front of it and be exposed to it, but we don't become symptomatic because we have a good immune system. But majority we had in our county were elderly that had they were immunocompromised, and they would develop the pneumonia.
Right.
So I would think that especially pool contractors in states that have year-round swimming, that have large elderly populations, those would be great spas to use this test on.
Sure. And I just was on a webcast last week. I wasn't on it. I was listening to it, I should say. And they were talking about the fact that in a hospital, we briefly spoke about this earlier, about the ice chips and the ice machine, patients that were recovering from major operations were coming down with Legionnaire's disease, and they couldn't figure out how. And here they traced it back to the ice machine, and people with the ice chips in their cup were, banging the cup back up to their face after the water's gone, like to eat the ice chips. And what a great way to be able to get the Legionella right in through your nasal passages. So just we're
And I know
learning
that's
more and
outside
more.
of the aquatic environment, but even getting off on a little tangent, I know like our state agency down here that regulates the medical facilities like nursing homes and assisted living, I know that we had been seeing increases in Legionella cases in facilities like that. I believe they were requiring them to have a water safety plan specifically for Legionella written, and they were supposed to start practicing that. I know that was before COVID. I don't know if that ever that got put on hold or not. And this is specifically to Florida. So, and that would be the Agency for Healthcare Administration, but they kind of worked with the health department as well. So if they're going to be required to, once you have that NSF approval, facilities like that would be able to use a test like this very easily to do their water testing to show presence of Legionella or not, and know if they need to take action on disinfecting their system, or if they have a cooling tower, they can test it on a regular basis. And it's as easy as water testing is for alkalinity and everything else. It's just, it will, again, legality, because there's always lawsuits happening. And so the more information that you have to protect yourself, I think that's the biggie to pull out of this as well for like the pool contractors. That's the big key right there. And it would be more your commercial public spas where the water's heated constantly and the jets are on. A residential spa, the risk of Legionella is a little bit lower than a commercial public spa, I would think. So I see a lot of positives in being able to test for that.
For instance, last year, there was a young lady who moved from New York to Pennsylvania. And doing so, she brought her above ground pool, put the pool up, take the pool down, and she grew. The reason she had Legionnaires was because she had kept the vinyl liner out in the sun before putting it up and cleaning it off. She did not superchlorinate the pool. She just opened the pool with fresh water, put some chlorine in, thinking it was just going to be fine. Well, she had a terrible problem with Legionnaires. Thank God she was very young. Her son was very young, and they did not catch anything. But I could not get over the high traces of Legionnaires. But again, we traced it back to her move, coming from New York to Pennsylvania. So we were able to go in, scrub it down, get rid of it, superchlorinate it after, change the sand in the filter. I put a little bit of dichloro into the pump, which went into the impeller, and then through the filter system on top of everything else. So that worked there. But that was on a service route by a pool company who brought me in. And it was really interesting to see. So what we have is a little kit. And this is good for homeowners. You can sell it through a retail store. It's perfect for a homeowner to go home and test. Now, I'm associated with a female who used to be an educator. And she tells me 10-year-olds can do this. Now, she worked with children, so yeah, you be the judge. In doing so with the young lady, I informed her about her problem and difficulty and asked her to stay at the pool for 48 hours. And she was so happy that this was all gone and had no idea what Legionnaires was.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know what it is or never heard of it. And usually when it used to be tested, when people had pneumonia, you go to the hospital, your doctor, and they did a test. They wouldn't even test. They just say community acquired pneumonia, which is not saying you have pneumonia based on a specific bacteria or anything else. They're just saying you've got pneumonia. Now that they're testing for that. So it's a very easy test. I know I talked with you, Mr. Dyer, before a previous phone conversation, was the test that, especially the exact blue, because it's more of that photometer test and you get a number, being able to use that and go into, like, I would be interested to go into a manufactured home, a mobile home that's been sitting for 6 months with their water shut off. And I'd love to go in before the homeowner and test everywhere in their manufactured home before, because they don't come in and flush their lines or do anything for disinfection. And I swear we probably have a lot of cases just because we have snowbirds in the county I worked in. So they're gone 6 months, they come back 6 months, anything in the lines sit, and then all of a sudden you have the water turned on. It would be really interesting to be able to test Legionella there.
It could be a business.
As a scientist, it's like that was something that we kind of identified at our health department, but we never had the time to be able to like actually go out and do any testing. And really, we couldn't do any Legionella testing unless it was associated with an actual Legionella outbreak. So we couldn't just go do a test and send it up to the state lab just to do a test. You know, it's costly with the culture test. So of course, only when somebody is actually active sick will they let us do it. So we always wanted to do some literature to give out to mobile home communities down here to give them steps on proper, when you get back to your house, this is what you need to do. Before you do anything, this is what you need to do. And of course, we never had the time to be able to do that, you know, that, but again, this test would fit in perfectly with that.
Not
brain spinning.
Not only that, we were in touch with the military, and Jim and I had a nice discussion with someone from the Marine Corps. We feel that this product right here would be very good for backpacks. Our soldiers could test their water before drinking it. Also on the bases, we could have the Exact Blue running multi-test throughout the base. And also when the bases are set up and we're at war, that is another factor that I think it would work. I come out of the swimming pool business. I was a lifeguard first. I was pool management second, pool service, and then I built pools and had 4 retail stores. The pool service companies should use these tools, not just for testing and protecting yourself, but it's an extra revenue stream that can come in to your business. And it's so simple. You know, my business is now 50 years old. I'm an old man, but my cousin still runs the business. It's still going strong. And he's considering bringing this in.
Awesome. And I'm glad you mentioned your background so listeners know that you're coming from a aquatic background. It sounds like Parks and Rec, and then you also were building pools and pool service and had retail stores. So that experience speaks volumes to the listeners. So that's great. And Jim, how did you, just so the listeners know how, because your name's familiar. I don't know where I've seen your name somewhere else in my life, but your name is very familiar. So tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, I have 27 years in commercial swimming pools, and don't necessarily want to give a commercial to any particular company, but 27 years in the commercial swimming pool arena. We were servicing over 10,000 pools and spas. I have 3 US patents to my name for putting chemical into commercial swimming pools and controlling the chemical. And that's my background. Awesome.
So just want the listeners to know that you guys come from their background. So this isn't a fly by night type thing. I know some people kind of think stuff like that, and it's not. You guys have extensive background in the aquatic industry. You just didn't pop up from somewhere and you're a pop-up. I don't want them to think that. I would never bring anybody on here that would be like that. It's usually, I know people and they're back, you know, I just wanted the listeners to know what I already knew.
Well, thank you.
I know your name's familiar, and I know you wouldn't say the name. You'll have to tell me the name later because I know your name from somewhere and I just can't put it right now.
Okay.
But thank you very much. Do you guys have anything else you want to add about the Exact Blue or the testing or
Well,
anything else?
In the next 10 years, I think the American consumer will be hit with technology as never before. There's a product that Mr. Conti introduced me to called Sutro. You drop it in your pool, it can measure the pH, the alkalinity, and the chlorine levels. And you bring it up on your phone and you can see. Yep. So I think we're in a great place right now growing because we are ourselves technology. Yep. And who knows what else is coming down the street. It's going to be a wonderful time to learn about a new way for swimming pools to be diagnosed and treated. I
actually interviewed Mr. Conti and the owner of Sutro for my podcast. It just hasn't, I have not aired that particular episode yet, but it will be coming in the year. But it was an extremely interesting technology that we talked about. And I agree, technology is coming into this industry from every which direction for different things. It's not even just Sutro or you guys. I interviewed also for my drowning prevention series that I'll be putting out this summer on the podcast, which is one of my big passions, was a wave detection system. And right. It's a headset they wear, and it Bluetooth technology, and it gives an alarm signal. They have a residential and commercial unit, which is good. And it's going to help hopefully prevent some drownings. I know it can't prevent everything, but it's another layer of protection to help. So I think it's great, along with the I agree with you, Mr. Dyer, that technology is creeping into the industry no matter what. And it's how we use it. Knowledge is power. And I've already, if anything would motivate somebody to use something like your system, it's not, a lot of times they don't want to spend the money or they don't want to take the time to do it. Then think about the lawsuits that you could protect yourself from if you had more information, because that's a lot of money you lose out if that lawsuit is won, because there's no way to actually say if they had Legionella or not. So the court's going to go with, they probably got it from the spa, but they may not have gotten it from the spa. And then that contractor wouldn't be liable if it was a poolside shower. Then that pool contractor at least wouldn't be part of the lawsuit anymore. It would just be the property owner.
Sure.
Well, the way I saw the pool builder working is as he turns the pool over to the homeowner or to the people that he's building the pool for, you run the test, you show the person the results of the test, and you ask them to sign. There is no presence of bacteria in your swimming pool. The builder can walk away, he's out of it, and then it's going to be up to the pool guys then to take over. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that was my idea about the pool builder. It fascinates me that you're being left open for so many lawsuits, and people are lawsuit crazy, that you would turn your back and say, I don't need that this year. Yep. Yep. A little bit of money now protects you from the lot of money that you might spend later. Right. This reminds me of, I go back to where a lot of people would break their necks diving in the swimming pool. Back then, the National Swimming Pool Institute then set up standards, class 1 through 5, of how to build a pool. Well, of course, they're gone too because people continue to break their necks. And with the problems we have today in bacteria, E. coli, Legionnaires, it goes on and on and on. And as I mentioned, down in Florida, in West Palm Beach, with the water, with algae, again, another problem, but we're working on that. I can tell you we're working on that. That would be cool. I'll have to bring you back on for that. Yeah. If your listeners would go to americatestyourwater.com, or if you have European listeners, go to europetestyourwater.com and take a look at us and see what we have to offer you. Awesome. I was going to ask how they could contact you, and all your contact info is at those websites. Yes, ma'am. Awesome.
Well, thank you very much for being on today, guys. And I don't see any questions, but hopefully you guys, if you have any questions, just email me at spacecoastpoolschool@yahoo.com. I can forward them over to Mr. Dyer and Mr. Mock, and they can certainly get back to you guys on any questions you have, or specifically or in general. So I'd like to thank you guys for being on today, and
Thank you, Lauren.
it's
Thank
been
you, Lauren.
wonderful.
We appreciate it.